she with you?
I thought she was with you.
Welcome back to Holding Court with the Nerd Queens. This is our Snyders Amazon segment. In this episode, we are joined by our friend, Jonita Davis. Jo is a journalist and avid fan of pop culture. This is her third time on the podcast, and this episode will be a little different. She will interview us, and we will interview her. Let's jump into it. Hey, I'm Cole.
I'm Nana.
I'm Megan.
I'm Dany.
I'm Nash.
And I'm Jo Davis.
So we believe you have some questions for us, Jo.
Yes, I do. So my little reporterly brain started going after seeing all the conversations that were happening after the big announcement that we're getting the Snyder Cut in 2021. But instead of like a triumphant like moment happening, there was this kind of a Prussian Olympics about who was more toxic, and I was surprised to see a lot of the critics and journalists kind of getting in and getting mean. I'm wanting to ask you all about the fan treatment by the press while this has been going on, the Snyder Cut. While you've been campaigning for the Snyder Cut, how have you been treated by the press?
I love that that word you just used, toxic Olympics.
Yeah, that's actually a great phrase. I think we're going to use it from now on.
That's what it feels like.
Well, the press has been as we've told you before, because when we met you were another journalist that we kind of like held at arm's length for a minute. But then we got to know you and saw that you were genuine, and that's mostly because, as you've seen recently, especially, is that mostly the media just like has nothing but bad things to say about the movement, because it's like back in the day when like women's suffrage and protesting for stuff like that was going on, people would almost think of you as like a warrior for protesting for something or campaigning for something. Like, yeah, there were parts of society that didn't like it, but now it's like the popular thought that if you want something like the Snyder Cut, something that to some people isn't important, it makes you like selfish and makes you a bully, and they're calling us bullies. I don't remember which one said it, but apparently one journalist said that Warner Brothers does negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that tweet is out there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems to be that's like the popular thing. That's like the trendy thing for journalists to do right now.
Yeah, I think there's two different camps that seem to be going at it right now. Like in this particular moment, and that's one opinion where people start saying, okay, this is starting a bad precedent where fans basically bullied their way to a movie that they think they want because these people don't even believe we would like the movie. And then there is the part where people are like, just no, these people just campaigned for something they wanted. They did that respectfully, and Snyder Cut in itself is such a unique and different situation that is so unlikely to repeat itself given all the circumstances that surrounded it, that there is nothing to start, because there is, again, it's really unlikely that something like this will repeat itself ever again. So I think that's what's kind of, or what I've observed in articles and in podcasts that I've listened since, that kind of these two opinions kind of mash together, and they take it a little bit to the extreme, especially the first camp where they go all about the, terrorists and bullies and harassers. There's been very bad article from Collider, and there's been others that it was just bad, and I was looking at it, I was like, wow, you even managed to turn our charity efforts on us, which I did not understand. How can you do that? But these people managed to do it within 2 sentences. So it was a bit it's a bit like, it feels like certain people have been saying for years, oh, it's never going to happen. This is a pipe dream. There is no way this is going to happen. And then suddenly it happened. And unfortunately, it is a big thing to be able to say sorry as a human being. I was wrong. And not many people can do that. And I don't think these people can do that. I don't think these people can go and say, hey, I'm sorry, I was wrong. There are people like that who can, but majority of these people who spend years and years and years slandering us, I mean, you can go back to Man of Steel. Some of these people were slandering us. These people are not gonna eat the crow. They're not gonna just say, I was wrong. They're not gonna do that. So they come up with these ridiculous slander articles, and they just try and paint us in a bad light. They're trying to be like, okay, how do it's like some of these articles run with the narrative like these people shouldn't have a word in what's going on in Hollywood. And then for me, the question is, why shouldn't we have the word of what's going on in Hollywood when we are the one paying Hollywood?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. I get it, and to go back with what you're saying, how they will, have these articles, and they will justify it in so many different ways. Even when I know, since I've gone on my little rant on Twitter, 2 critics about gaslighting fandoms gaslighting the fandom for years, and then turning around and calling them toxic when they start fighting back. I've had critics come after me, and actually there's like one critic that's on my Twitter. She made like a couple posts. Somebody else called her out. One of the Snyder Cut fans was like, well, this person. And I went and looked up that person's writings on the Snyder Cut, and every single thing that she wrote on this, she's calling the fandom, she's painting the fandom as a cult. And the word she uses, the imagery it creates is of a crazed, fanatic, bully of a person. She never once has a neutral view of the fandom, but she, doesn't really address that. What she does come out and say is, "Well, I've been attacked by the fans." You can't come out swinging, as a fandom, and then expect no one to swing back. Is what I have to say about it. But I'm looking at some of the headlines today. Vanity Fair is releasing the Snyder Cut of Justice League, a victory for toxic fandom.
Really? Vanity Fair?
Yeah.
I kind of hoped that they wouldn't say that.
Let me guess. It's the Robinson chick, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh
That's
my
right.
gosh.
And see, the thing is, they're getting, and my point that I made is you're getting on these platforms with millions of people who don't know about the fandom's fundraising efforts. They don't know about the backstory. They don't even know about, the story that some of the Black Snyder fans hit me onto last year, the whitewashing of the whole film. They don't know, these people don't know about that. They just know what they're reading in these like places like Vanity Fair, what they're reading from these blue check people on social media. And so it's not fair that the first exposure they get to the Snyder Cut is toxic fandom. How do you guys feel about that?
It's really frustrating because we spend so much time like paying attention to things, like, for example, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, when somebody says something really shitty about you, like, we always spend so much time on like telling the other person, hey, you don't have to you don't have to reply to them, you don't have to tweet to them, like, that's not needed, and especially me, because I have a bit of a temper. Nana has to tell me, hey, you don't have to reply to that person. And we go through so much of that effort where we just let it happen. We just let them talk their shit. And it's just frustrating because it's like they get this huge platform and we have to literally try to scream till we're hoarse to get heard.
I like that. Because the fandom is really not as large as people think. How many strong are you? Do you know, ballpark?
It has to be a lot of people to have achieved what we have. But like it's
definitely.
it's a worldwide
the thing. Is that the thing about this is that obviously it's you see a lot of the same people doing the big stuff. You see a lot of people behind the campaigns. They usually don't change much because it's. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a closed circle. I'd say that like anybody's welcome to do their campaign, and that was always a thing. But not everybody's up for that. I think that majority of people are more of, hey, this is a cool thing that I'll support, more than, I'll come up with something. And sometimes it's also like they see us, or they see, I don't know, people from Snyder Cut, they see other people organizing stuff, and they're like, well, I'm kind of afraid to approach them as well. I'm not like afraid as in we're bad people, but you kind of have respect. That's what happened to me a couple times, that people came to me and they were like, well, I feel like I'm not good enough for this. So I would tell them, why wouldn't you be good enough? We are all the same kind of people. We are just people, just an ordinary people who wanted to do something good. I mean, I think Meg has this a lot, that people come to you with stuff.
Oh, yeah. People, I mean, come to my DMs with ideas and stuff that they have, and I'm like, yeah, you should definitely put that out there. But sometimes they feel like they, don't have a voice, and they'll just come to people that they see more often on the timeline, I'm assuming.
Yeah, this is just like they would come, and they would come to you, or someone that they know that either has a reach or has been doing these campaigns for a while, or both. And so, at the end of the day, you see a certain group of people, which could be around 100 people, that are kind of in the thick of it and sharing all this stuff. But as a total, I think the fandom's actually much bigger than we imagine it is, because obviously there's just a lot of people who come in and just tweet during the trending events. Some of them don't even do that. Some of them just tweet occasionally. Some of them are not even on Twitter, I think very interesting perspective for Cole and I in this group is when we went to the Comic-Cons, because especially like in 2018, we would feel like we are not big enough as a fandom. But then we would meet these people, and we would talk to them, and it was like, we'd have the shirt, or we'd have something, and people would ask, and then we would talk to them, and we'd find that people are actually much, much nicer and much, much more willing to listen than it seems, say, on Twitter, which is, dangerously toxic. Let's not talk about how stupid Twitter is, but
the mistake that most people make is thinking that the Snyder Cut movement is a vocal minority, but really we're not. We're a lot more people than just a minority.
Yeah, so it's
it's just you don't see the sheer size of the fandom, because a lot of these people, they either talk at minimum or they don't talk at all. And some of it I think is given also the way that bloggers and journalists have treated us in the past. Because again, we can go back to Man of Steel and see the slander. We can go back to the beginning of Zack Snyder's DCU. What's when it began, and it was just one hit after another, and it was just like you were made to feel like you are the wrong person for liking this stuff. And I mean, I think the girls can take over from here, but they can tell you it's just been like that since 2013, and it hasn't stopped. So
yeah, I mean, I can agree with you on that. I feel like since 2013, or whenever you started watching Zack's movies in the DCU, it's like there's always this, not that you're afraid to say you like it online at all, like there's just always, you're always worried about, oh, someone's going to come in to my mentions and like drag me for this, or say I have shitty taste, or write, a 3-paragraph reply about how he's ruining the DCEU and blah, 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 blah. And I feel like that's definitely, I feel like bloggers have really attached themselves to that narrative for sure.
Yeah, sure. I think, it's horrible. I think when you talk about the DCU, of course, it started with Man of Steel. But we have addressed this before in Amazon's, how the media and the critics have criticized Mr. Snyder's craft since, I don't know, Sucker Punch. Mm-hmm. We remember how he was accused of misogyny. We have talked about it a lot. And it's, to me, it's nonsensical because you don't simply call a person like that, because the attack is not against the craft. I mean, you can understand that someone doesn't like the movie or doesn't like a different approach, but this is plain hate against the person for having a certain kind of vision. And the people who slowly is understanding this vision, it becomes very passionate about it. And I think that's why it looks like it's so extreme, because there's one side, the criticism, that has no arguments other than I don't like it because Zack Snyder is this or that. And we defend him because we understand his job. So it's kind of gets to a nowhere point, because we are not going to change their minds. If it's treated as personally as they treat it, because they plain say it. I hate this fella, the girl we mentioned before. I hate Zack Snyder. The tweet is there. Mm-hmm. So it's an impossible quest to try to convince these people, but at the same time, leaving it like that, we always fought for our way of thinking, and that's why I think we are hated as a fandom, because we have a strong voice. Because smart, and I'm not gonna say this. There's people, the smart people. There are with a sensitive beyond some point. I talked with a friend the other day about the people who liked Mr. Snyder's movie, and you see most of them, they all have the certain sensitivity for some stuff. They all have these qualities. Most of them artists, people with great way of thinking, and so it's hard to comprehend beyond that the personal stuff, and someone who has the power of social media to slander someone's work because they don't like it personally. It's irresponsible in that, but that's never going to change, I think.
Yeah, I was watching Tyrone Magnus's video today about the Snyder Cut coming out, and I think he worded it pretty perfectly. He went on to say like a bunch of great directors, and how Zack Snyder gets so much unwarranted hate from critics or bloggers or whatever, and but all of these other directors don't. Like, even if, let's say, the Russo brothers made a movie that like you didn't like, we wouldn't go online and just put out a constant hate train for them. Because, I mean, not every movie you make is going to be a hit to everyone. But there's this narrative with Zack where every movie he puts out, there's people saying, oh, it's the worst movie ever made. I can't believe that this was made, or whatever. And I feel like just the way he worded it was perfect. It's just unwarranted hate.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I identify with that. That's one of the problems I have with the critics is we can not like, I don't like Quentin Tarantino, and I'm saying that in my DMs and my inbox on my website is going to get lit up again. I think that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a racist, sexist movie. There were no people of color in it. Well, one person of color who happened to be a legend that he treated like the help. I really, but you don't hear me going day after day after day after Tarantino, ripping him apart. I like some of his other films, but I have called him the Hemingway of Hollywood, the drunk Hemingway of Hollywood. People like his stuff because of his name, and that's it. He's not good anymore. But I don't go on this tirade all the time about him. That was in my review, and that's where it stayed. And so, as a critic, we're allowed those opinions. This is what I was trying to tell another critic, the Telegraph critic today. You're allowed those opinions, but why are these opinions not staying in the review? Why are they following that from movie to movie?
Yeah.
It's because, like we've said before, there's this problem that people have because Zack's movies make you think. You sit down to one of his films, whether it be one of his comic book movies or Watchmen or like anything really, they make you think. They make you have to use that tiny pea brain that some people don't always feel up to using every day. And it's like, I know there are people who just want to sit down and watch a popcorn movie. Sure, do that. But if you want to sit down and watch a Zack Snyder movie, you have to be prepared to use your brain and to actually think. And like also, like for what we've said before, one of the most amazing things we find with his work is that when it comes to like his DC Comics work, he takes these godlike people and brings them into the real world with real world consequences. He gives us situations we can relate to. Whereas, like, as much as once upon a time I did like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they tore up Manhattan and there was no consequences for them. Like, there was no reaction to it, like, you can't do that. But right away, Superman gets put on trial for what he did to stop Zod. Like, he just he confronts us with the real world, even in his fantasy work, and I think that makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think it puts up a mirror. I think he puts up a mirror to the society, and not many people want to see that. He doesn't just make a movie. He makes a movie that kind of puts you in a position where you might be called out on your bullshit. With all the respect. I mean, especially for these people, I think that's the thing. I think a lot of these people watch the movie and they see themselves in a place with they see themselves as, I'm not saying the villains of the film, but they see themselves in that movie, in the parts where they would like to not see themselves. And it's just a mirror. It's a mirror to them, and they don't like it. Nobody likes that kind of mirror. Like, nobody likes to see that, hey, should Superman be real, you would probably be afraid too. You would probably be hesitant too. You would probably judge him too. Nobody wants to see that because they have this idea of a character that's 80 years old and that's just, this perfect godlike persona that can do no wrong. But then they look at Man of Steel, for example, and exactly that's what it is. They have to confront the idea that if that Superman was real, it's not gonna be as fairy tale as the original comics makes it out to be. And they themselves would not react in the way they wish they would have, and I think that's something that a lot of people have problems with, because they just don't like that. They don't like that in real life, and they certainly don't like that in the movies. And I think it's a lot about self-reflection in this case, like being able to think critically about this stuff and kind of see it from the objective viewpoint in order to appreciate these movies. And I don't think that these people are capable of that. But that's just like that's the way I see it anyway.
Well, I mean, critics tackle like hard, like tough topics in a lot of other films. You know, do you think that it's the comic
I
fantasy?
think so.
You think that's what's tripping everybody up?
Yeah.
I think so. I think that there's like if you imagine it like a shelf, and you've got these compartments in the shelf, and then each compartment has its own thing, and then obviously comic book movies somehow created this compartment. I think it was mostly Marvel comic book movies that created it, despite the fact that there have been other comic book movies that were much closer to what Zack did than what Marvel did. Most of the movies are Marvel-like. And I think it created this compartment where this is what's expected from a comic book movie. And if you do something different, if you do something darker, if you do something heavier on thinking or on the approach, it just suddenly doesn't fit in that compartment, but it doesn't fit in any other. And I guess just these people can't really comprehend that just some films you can't just shove into one compartment and give them all the attributes that are in that compartment and nothing else, because that's that's what they call the Marvel formula right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's all the same thing, and I think that that's, for example, for me, that's what I like about DC universe in general. The films right now, even the ones that went away from Snyder's vision, that were made by other directors and they were made hopefully by their own vision. That's what I like. I like that these films think for themselves, that they represent themselves. And I think that is a way to go, and it should be that way, so that you choose what you want to see, and that's the thing. That's I think that's the ultimate issue with Zack's movies, because they just can't compartmentalize them. They have to think about them. They have to take them apart, and they have to try and understand them, and they have to deal with the fact that these movies call out people. They do.
Yeah, and there's too much work for a Marvel movie. Yeah, too much work. And okay, so let me ask about the Joker effect. What I call the Joker effect, where he's got this movie that came out and made $1 billion. It was dark as hell. Everything that everybody's wanted, really DC films to be their own narrative, their own to tell a story in their own way. Did you all think that maybe that would turn the tide for Zack? Of the hatred in the media?
Genuinely, I was hoping it would. And it seemed for a moment that it seemed like the tides were turning and we wouldn't be stuck in this little box that if your film isn't cotton candy happiness, that we would actually get, there would be appreciation for that. But it seems that, once again, even I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the director, but of that film. But with
Todd Phillips.
Thank you. Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix were getting attacked for the fact that they thought it was too dark. It was this whole it was making white men look bad, and it's I think once again it was another situation where, like Nana was saying, you were faced with a mirror and you don't like being faced with that mirror. You have a lot of self-infliction, you have to look at yourself and be like, hey, wait, that action looks familiar. Maybe I'm doing that. It's it was a portrayal of a character that we hadn't seen yet before, where at the same time you hate him, but you also feel sympathy for him, and you see the world that he's living in, and you realize that's our world, and this is how we handle people with mental health, and it's broken. And for a good moment there, But in a moment I say maybe a week or two, it looked like maybe the tides would turn on this whole dark thing. But no, that didn't last very long. People, of course, the people we spoke about earlier with these opinions in the media rose up and they talked their shit. And I mean, the movie still got nominated for awards, which was pretty incredible. But
and won.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Which was groundbreaking because comic book movies don't win awards.
Right. I actually had a conversation with Patty Jenkins about that.
Excuse you?
Oh my god.
I'm so sorry.
You just say that so casually. Pat Convo with
so much cooler.
with the
you
Queen,
were cool before,
Patty
but you just became so much cooler.
with the Queen,
But
Patty Jenkins.
I know that some people within the fandom don't like some of her words, but she genuinely said.
No, we love her. We're obsessed with her. Sorry.
Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. She genuinely said in an interview I had with her that she thinks that it's just a bunch of BS that these comic book movies are not getting held up to the same standards as as other films. There's no different. And so I really thought that going back to Joker Effect, I really thought that would, I really hoped that it would turn things. And I wonder if you guys were like, nah. If you guys have been in this a lot longer than I have. I really wondered what you thought. So thank you for sharing that.
There was a lot of hope for a moment.
I
I'm so sorry.
I do think it turned the tides on different fronts, though. I think it turned the tides on the fandom front because obviously Joker was such success. I think that Man of Steel and BVS faced similar criticisms, and they not failed in the box office, but they didn't make as much money as people were expecting them to. And I think partially that was done also because obviously the critics went all out to harm the movie before it even came out. And in case of Joker, that was not the case. That people ignored these reviews and they went to see it and they found out that they love it and they want to see more. And I mean, we've seen what happened. I mean, Joker broke all sorts of records. So I think that it turned the tide on that front. And I think that as that happened, it turned a bit of tide also from the studio's point of view. Because, I mean, I'm not saying that was the actual turn of events, because we know from the THR article that as far as Snyder Cut goes, the turn of events was 17th of November. But I think there was this thing where the studios may have seen like, okay, maybe we should listen to people more than and then we listen to bloggers, because that's essentially what caused the whole fiasco with Snyder Cut. It was just this slander campaign against BVS, and to this day you can actually look online, you can dig up, and I'm pretty sure some people did it. Bots that were set to just go against BVS and create this wave of negative tweets. And those were not people, those were bots. And there were so many of them. So then BVS did not make as much as the studio wanted them to make, despite, I honestly think that, like, for a second film in the franchise, BVS made just, like, enough money, if not more than expected. But
it did well for a sequel. It did.
Yeah, exactly. So, yes, you can argue, okay, Superman and Batman in one movie, it should have made more. I can see that point of argument, but in the same time, I'm like, okay, but you can't start building a franchise and expect billion-dollar films right off the bat. I don't think you can. But I think the studio did expect it, because Marvel had billion-dollar movies, even though they were already at the end of phase 1 at that point, I believe. And it was this combination of things. It was like, well, people didn't go to see it. Well, the truth is, people did go to see it, but they didn't go to see it as much as you wanted them to, because there was a slander campaign in the media that, and it didn't promote the film well. It just didn't. And obviously people who are not so much into comic book movies are not going to go see it then, because why would you go see it, something that has bad reviews, right, if you don't know anything about it?
Right.
And I think that Joker kind of turned it around, that people sort of realized that what critics say is not necessarily what it means. And
because Joker was R-rated and still had such a great success, I think that a lot of studios just took a little bit of a turn and was like, oh, okay, so maybe people matter more, like general audience matters more than bloggers do. And I think that I would hope that started that little bit of a turn and made them a little bit more open to what happened later on. And the reason that we're here today, because I mean, it is because they listen to us. I mean, we've been campaigning nonstop and we've been tweeting nonstop and we've been trending every other week pretty much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at any AT&T, HBO, or Warner Brothers, Warner Media related posts, it was always release the Snyder Cut, release the Snyder Cut. So I believe that they did listen because they saw that people want to see this movie, no matter what critics say. And I think that's what paved the road. So I would hope that Joker's success it didn't turn the tides on the bloggers, but it did on general audience and their view of the movies. And then subsequently, I would hope that that's what it did for studios as well.
I want to ask about, one of you mentioned that the slander and just the reputation of saying, I like Sucker Punch or I like Man of Steel, it actually got you the tirade on social media, or you get certain looks from people. Do you think that you know, maybe some of the fans who were like almost in hiding because of all that, do you think they actually came out after, you know, Joker, or maybe even after November, when you had that huge, I mean, that was a really, really great event when you had so many people tweeting about the Snyder Cut, positivity about the Snyder Cut. Do you think that kind of turned the tide for those closeted fans, or the shy fans who are kind of like, I don't want to be labeled?
Definitely,
Yeah,
in my
I agree.
opinion.
I think that when they see these things trending, people are more apt to join in because they feel like maybe, I don't know, it'll be hidden in a sea of other tweets. But I mean, I think a lot of people for a long time maybe thought that they were alone in thinking, I don't know, that they liked these movies or they liked Zack as a director, and seeing these campaigns online or reading articles online about it, they were like, oh, this is cool, let me check this out. And I mean, I've seen a lot of people, especially after the November trending event, say like, oh, I joined Twitter after the event because there's so many people that want this movie and they like the same things I do. So I feel like the more we trended, the more people definitely came out of the woodwork and they're like, oh yeah, I love Zack's movies too, let's get this movie released.
I really like that. So do you think that the campaign going into, I mean, we all know that going into 2021, there's probably going to be a lot of, you guys have probably got some great stuff planned already, and you can give me anything about it. No, I don't want to, you know, spoil anything, but do you think that, you know, all of the positivity that's going to happen leading up to the release, do you think that will combat this toxicity?
Definitely
hope so.
try.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we always try to be louder than the haters, you know? Just, you know, because, like, these people are getting paid to be shitty people. We're not getting paid a dime to be positive, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty much the long and the short of it is they're getting paid to be shitty, to get their clicks, to get their views, and we're just positive people with no real horse in this race, other than that we want to see Zack succeed and we want to see his goddamn movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do think that we successfully convinced a certain amount of people, because, like, well, I did see a lot of slander after the announcement. I have to admit, I've seen a whole bunch of articles from people that I wouldn't have guessed would said this, but
they would go, oh yeah, I'm totally gonna see it. I want to see it. I'm curious what's in it. And you know, I've seen people that I would never expect to see saying, you know, hey, these guys did it and they did a good job, and praise us on our charity efforts. So there are people that we managed to convert. There are people that we managed to turn that right now are reporting the positive stuff. And I mean, at this moment, like, what we can hope for is that if we stick to who we are and what we do, that more and more people will see it, and eventually that hateful group of people who just can't admit to, you know, being wrong, that eventually they just, like, they'll be silenced by the amount of positivity, because it does happen. You know, we've seen like, I've seen people go positive about this, and so I think we just gotta keep pushing forward. We just gotta be who we are, do the charity work as we are, which we've got a whole bunch of stuff planned, and just carry on. And you know what? Like, you never know what happens. We don't know what happens. We don't know what can happen. We just have to, like, you know, what if we campaign for the movie? You know, well, campaign. We don't have to campaign for it. We have it. But what if we hype it up as it comes, and we build it up, and we knock it out of the ballpark and make it really, really successful? What happens then? What if HBO Max goes and says, hey, we want more of this? And you know, like, that's what we can do. We can fight for the DCU that was taken from us. And I mean, we've got all the weapons, as Sucker Punch would say. So now all we gotta do is fight. And we can't let the negative journalists get in the way, because we've done that before. That's, as we mentioned before, we've done that before. People became scared after BVS or Man of Steel. People became scared of saying, oh, I like this movie, because they were worried that they get slandered online. And we've been there before, and we got silenced as a community, and then we lost. We lost the universe that we were so much in love with. We lost that, and obviously there was, let's not even go into what happened to Zack. So I think that it's important that we are not going to be silenced this time. It's important that we are allowed. It's important that we support what we love, and that we show them that we want our DCU, and we will fight for it. If there is a chance, even if there is a 1% chance that we can get it back, we got to take it. And I think that's the only approach that we can take to go, like, going forward.
I want to ask a question that's out there, that's going around. Kind of the opposition side, but what if we get the Snyder Cut and it's not what everybody expected? It's not that much better than the Justice League. So what if we get it and it's not great? Well, then what?
If it's not good to to an individual or whatever, like, by your opinion, then at least we did good by the Snyders. At least we did good by Zack and his family. You know, they got taken advantage of during a tragedy and then kicked out the door. So it's like, at least we did good for them, and we did a lot of good for AFSP. But I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like it from all the just saying. It can't get much worse.
I think the Cole is right about that. It's basically not about the movie. The movie is physical representation of a cause. We know about what happened with the Snyders. We know what it was done to them, and it just got together into one thing. I mean, the movie's great, and I know I'm gonna love it. It's not about that. It's about saying, you shouldn't have done this to
It's not how you treat a human being.
Yeah, our beloved Warner Brothers now. I don't hate them now. I love them. But don't do this. I mean, respect artists, respect visions. It's about that. I think it's a bigger cause that just the movie, and I think it could go on. I mean, giving voice to uncredited artists, or make sure that things are fair for them. It's also an important thing to consider.
Hey, listen, if all they took out, if all they cut takes out is like those typical Joss shots where it's below the butt or like with the berry on Diana's boobs, then it's already 100% better.
Back in? Yeah,
definitely.
You know, I mean, the thing people often don't understand about this, and I've had that with my friends, you know, and I got this question actually before about, you know, what if you don't like the movie? And I always tell them the same thing. You misunderstood what this movement's about. This movement hasn't been about we want this one particular movie. This movement has been about we want to change the way Hollywood sees artistic integrity, and it was about the charity work. What we care about is that this director didn't get to see his vision. He was forced out amidst the family tragedy, and his work, something that he's worked on for years, something that he put his heart and soul into, has been butchered and replaced by abomination. And to us, that was the worst thing. And we fought for it because we wanted artistic integrity. Because he, as an artist, as a person who worked on that movie, and that movie is mostly done. It's missing some VFX. It needs to redo Steppenwolf and all that stuff. And yes, there is a whole conversation about that now too. But that movie is mostly done, and he shot what he needed to shoot. And it's just the whole thing about this is that it's been lying somewhere on the shelf, never to be seen. Originally, never to be seen, because some executives decided that it wasn't good enough to sell pajamas, you know, and this is not what it should be like. And for us, it's more about, okay, this person that we admire deserves his movie to be out there, and we deserve to have a chance to see that movie and see for ourselves whether we like it or not. You know, we shouldn't go by, oh, this executive says, oh, this is not good enough. We shouldn't go by, oh, this blogger was on early screening and said it's not good enough. I don't care what they said. I care what I say. I care what I see. I didn't get to see that movie. And that movie was advertised to me. That movie was promised to me. That movie is something that my favorite director put his heart and soul into, and I deserve to see it. When I went to that cinema on 17th of November 2017, I paid money to see Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I haven't seen it. And that, to me, is the problem. It's not whether I like the movie or not. It's the fact that I didn't get a chance to form that opinion. That's the problem.
Love that. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to drag everybody down because this is like such a
no, it's okay.
Great moment. But I thought we needed to take a moment to kind of address this. I know you have on your show before, but the fact that it's still happening after we have this big announcement is, I thought we needed to take a moment to kind of talk about it and you know, the big elephant in the room. I mean, of sorts. So with that, you know, that all that said and all that behind us, is there anything you can say about? No, I'm not going to ask that question. What are you most looking forward to for 2021 and the big release?
I'm looking forward to getting to discuss and pick, like, if it's episodic or we get to see it all at once, whatever we get. I'm just, like, if it is episodic, one of my favorite things to do with shows I'm obsessed with, and I know I'll be obsessed with this, that is to sit down on Twitter or like with a friend and just pick it apart and like be like, and did you see that reference? And did you see that Easter egg? Did you catch that moment? Like, I'm so looking forward to be able to fangirl with other people who appreciate the work and just like chat about everything we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can't wait to watch it with my dad. That's what I'm so, because I went and saw the theatrical release. I bought like so many tickets. I took like 3 of my friends and my mom and my dad, and I just can't wait to like be able to sit down with the people that I care about and like watch something that we fought so hard for. And regardless if it sucks or if it's the greatest thing I've ever seen, I think just the opportunity to see it is really what I'm most excited for. Like the anticipation of it.
I am excited, and I hope it happens. That I am excited for like potential. I'm hoping it'll happen because knowing Zack and knowing people obviously in this fandom, I think we will do our best to make it happen, to get it at least onto one theater screening, and to be there. And I hope that I'll get to be there with all my friends wherever it takes place, whatever form it is. Whether it's charity screening or maybe, I don't know, maybe they will do 1 or 2 week theatrical release for it. Maybe they'll do something. I don't know. I would imagine Zack would try. So if that happens, that's what I'm most excited for, because I think it'll give me a chance to meet up with all these people that I've been fighting alongside for all those years, and we'll get to see the one thing that we want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to me, I'm excited to think of Zack seeing our reactions to the movie. I think he will be glad to see everybody chilling and enjoying, just to watch it. It's not about if we're gonna love it or not. It's about seeing his vision come to light finally. So I'm thinking about Zack mostly, and I love it.
Yeah. Justice was served. Sis.
So, Jonita, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So how did you feel when you heard the announcement?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have to tell you, I was watching the movie with my husband. He was like the one on. I had it on my little tablet, my little Surface. So it's a tiny screen, and he had it on the big TV screen. It was keeping sync and everything. And Zack was talking. So I had Vero with Zack talking on my screen, and he's like keeping sync with the television. My husband's a huge Superman fan. I've told you guys this before. Our kids all have names from Superman comics. Well, except for our last one. She was named from the Batman series because I just was the, and petty. Anyway, so but we're a DC family, so we were watching it together. And when I heard afterwards, Henry Cavill came on. The tank on. I mean, did you guys tell him what to dress in? I mean, seriously, if you did, bless you, because that was like an amazing Zoom appearance.
We're pretty sure he has only one shirt, just so you know.
Yeah. So I was like really like still like really going off of that, and then I'm looking and I'm like, and Dany asked the question, and I'm like, oh my god, and then I'm like, and there was this pause, and I'm like, oh, dude, he's not gonna say anything. He's not gonna answer her. What the hell? And then he says it, and I just sort of screamed. And my husband's like, what happened? He's like, what happened? I'm like, it's coming. So yeah, I mean, I kind of got sucked up into it because, I don't know, you didn't ask this, but for me, I got asked, into it from fans who were like showing me how you have this diverse set of cast of characters in this film that centered a black character or superhero who isn't problematic in any way, and it got washed away, erased from this movie. And all of that, this could have been the most diverse film that comics have ever seen. This could have been the first positive, black superhero we had in the lead of a film, but it all was sitting on a cutting room floor. And so for me to see that, and then to see that no one was reporting on it. No one has been reporting on this. And I've been pitching this myself and talking about it. So I feel what some of the fans who, really been going on this have felt. And so to me, this is a way to this is like the most blatant case of Hollywood erasure of diversity ever. Blatant and unapologetic. And for me, the Snyder Cut coming out means that there's proof that this happened, that this does happen, and that we now need to start talking about this and addressing this, and giving a room on the stage, the diversity stage, to this conversation about creators of color who get their work just totally ripped away before it hits the theaters after all the effort they put into making something. And the people who actually build these stories around, these robust, diverse characters, and to see that just kind of cut away at the end, and we get the same old story in the theaters. I think we can start having that conversation after the Snyder Cut, which, so that's why I was really excited.
Did you see?
I have a follow-up question, actually. Did you see Ray Fisher on Twitch after that?
That's what I was about to ask.
No, I haven't. I remember somebody told me to watch him. I have not had a chance to do that yet.
Oh my god,
I was very, very emotional. But what I suggest that you can check out on Vero, it's from the Nice Cast, is what they're called, and they had a really good conversation today. Well, it was about 2 days old, but it came out today. It's a podcast, and Ray is the main guest. Zack Snyder actually jumps in for a little bit, but the main guest is Ray, and they're talking actually diversity amongst other things. And it was really interesting listen. I didn't get to listen to the whole thing just yet, but so far it was very interesting listen. So if you have some time, that's definitely something to check out.
And the clips from Twitch, definitely. There was this he started crying, talking about how he's just so happy about this, not just, he was saying how he's happy that Cyborg's gonna get the respect he deserves, but he also was happy that Zack's family is finally getting this next step of healing and everything, and it was just... I was crying. Our friends we were on stream with, everyone was emotional and just watching. Everyone was crying.
All right, we watched it. We watched it when we were on the Zoom, didn't we?
Yeah, with the TPZ guys. They were so quiet and sullen listening, and we were like, and then there's Nana and I going, "Oh, I want to give him a hug."
Yeah, that was a good.
Talking about starting last year when Zack put all those pictures out of this diverse community. He was on Twitter talking about all this black excellence that got erased, and he started naming who his mother was and the actress, and giving her props and things, and that to me, but that still wasn't picked up by the mainstream. So I'm hoping that this does. I'm glad that it was on the podcast though, and it's on Twitch. That means that it is getting some attention. So
it's slowly getting more. And whenever we see you put out an article on it, we try to pimp it out as much as we can, because we're like, we see what you're seeing, and we totally agree with you. We're like, people need to recognize this. And but we saw that the lady who plays his mom reacted on Twitter. She's really excited, and
yeah, she is. And,
haven't heard anything from Iris West yet, but I'm sure she's excited too, because she's in the movie for a few moments.
Yeah, she actually did get out on Twitter last year. I think last year or the year before, and said that her whole thing was erased, and so I'm sure she's got some great reactions. I would love to see the cast together talking about this at some point, which I know they will. And I hope the diversity and I hope that the diversity and the creator, the rights of the creator, kind of stay central to this conversation around the Snyder Cut.
Definitely. I was so excited to see Harry J. Lennox, or is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. I couldn't remember if I was saying his name or his character name for some reason. But I was so excited to see him tweet about it, because, like, his entire reveal as a superhero got erased. Like, when we were told that before Comic-Con, like, we lost our minds.
Yeah, I remember that reveal, like, that storyboard completely blew my mind when it came out.
I think I called him for work that day.
I remember I was so upset, though, because I was like, it wasn't that I was upset with Zack for revealing it or, stuff like that. I was upset with the studio. And I think that's like one of the things, I spoke on this before, but it's one of the things that I don't think I'll ever forgive them. And that's the fact that they took away from us that moment that it would have happened on the screen. Like, these are obviously, I'm pretty sure there's so much more in that movie that's going to make us, jump off our seats and go, oh my God. But,
that reveal would have been insane to see without any knowledge.
It would have been Wonder Woman all over again.
Exactly. Yeah. It would have been something like that all over again. And it's been taken away. We don't get it. We don't get it again. And I think the similar thing would be when Darkseid would appear on the screen, stuff like that. And I think, like, obviously Zack revealing all this stuff, when he did it, first of all, I don't think he expected that movie's going to actually come out. And second of all, like, he did it to share with us what should have been in the movie, to show us, what should have been there, maybe probably to motivate us to fight for it more. And I am forever grateful that he did show it. But I will never, ever forgive the studio for taking that moment away from us, because they did. They took it away by making an executive decision that the movie's not going to be good enough. And that's again.
And now they're the only ones losing.
The artistic integrity. That's why we fight.
Hey, and now HBO Max is winning, and they're losing. So.
I was going to ask, do you think Zack is going to try to pop in another reveal?
I think that, like, if we get another reveal, it'll be a trailer or what have you.
Yeah.
I think if he teases from now on, it'll just be like stuff he's already put out.
Yeah, he'll take all those black and white photos and he'll put them in color.
Another reveal like the Martian Manhunter reveal.
Knowing
he'll pop one of those into the actual movie. Do you think
knowing his work, having followed his work for so long, there are definitely other things to surprise us in there. He didn't give away the whole kit and caboodle.
Definitely stuff that to see. I really like that. Cool, guys.
I have one question, which is not to Joe, it's not to Meg or Cole, it's to Dany and Nash, because I feel like our listeners would love to hear about it. Girls, how did it feel to be there?
Yes.
On the spot.
It was awesome. I still can't believe what happened that day. Seriously. It was me? I can't believe it.
And Dany, how do you feel about having asked the question?
Well, first of all, when I knew that I was gonna be in the Q&A, I kept thinking, why me? I'm so lucky. And when I'm informed that I'm last, I have to go for it. I mean, the date was so special. The atmosphere, I think a lot of people felt it, like it was possible. So it was I take it or I leave it. I mean, the worst thing that could happen is that he says, "No, actually, it's not going to happen. We don't have anything yet." But and when it starts to reply to me, it's not going to happen. I think he saw it in my face. I was kind of disappointed. I was kind of, it's taking long. It's not going to happen yet.
Mm-hmm.
We will have to wait. I was expecting to see that.
He was definitely teasing a little bit.
Me too.
And Henry suddenly said there was a silence. And Henry said, I reckon you should. And it was like, I had all my hair, body hair all popped up. And my, I don't know, my heart, it started to pump really fast. I reckon you should, said again. And then came the announcement. So I couldn't believe it. I was shaking and was so happy and thankful that it was me that he chose just one of the fans. Because I'm not more than that. I'm just one of the thousands of out there waiting for this thing, for the movie, for whatever reasons. So it was amazing. Yeah, I felt awesome.
It's funny. It took me a second to realize what was happening. When Zack showed that poster, I started to see it, and when I read HBO Max and the year, then I came to my senses and started to react to that. I think everyone could see it, so it was unbelievable. And the highlight of my year for sure. I will never forget the moment. Never.
How was it seeing Henry?
Oh God.
The gentleman. Oh my God. He's so amazing.
And my face. Yeah. He looked so good in that tank top. I mean,
wish I was that tank top.
Oh God.
Every day of my life.
I will never care if he doesn't wear anything else for the rest of his life. I mean,
he owns only one shirt, so it's okay.
Yeah. So it was great to see him there. And actually, thinking about it later, it was kind of a recognition for him, since there was a lot of people in the fandom who started to talk bad things about him for not participating in November. And it was really in a bad place with some people in the movement. So I think the fact that he was there, being Superman, the angular stone of all the DCEU, it just made sense. It was everything.
It really felt like he was. That was the plan, you know, like that. The plan was for him to be the one.
Beginning.
Yeah. You think about it later, and it was completely.
Like he was like the only person who never spoke out at all ever, and it felt like two things. This was the plan, that he would be the one to help release it, be the one to say, "Hey, we're releasing it," because he's the one who kicked off the DCEU. So it felt like he was there at the beginning. He should be there now, and it also felt.
I don't know if you remember a post back then from the boss where I started to talk about Excalibur.
Yeah.
So I started to dig out, and actually, in the legend, I don't know. I think I remember correctly. Percival. There's a reference of Percival not engaging in war, and that's why he became the worthy one to find the Grail, while being one of the ones who found the Grail. So I was kind of thinking, so the one who didn't engage in the war is the one who's gonna bring it home. And it was
wow. So, I didn't know that.
Wow, I did not think of that at all.
Yeah, and we know that Zack obsesses over Excalibur, so that's incredible. Actually, now that you think about it.
And he said a lot with those references. We didn't really thought about it right.
Wow, that actually just blew my mind.
Yeah, you did a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it just felt like he started the DCEU, so it makes sense if he's there when it's rescued. But also because it's like, Zack also respects, like, each of the actors and their work, and Henry was all tied up in Witcher stuff back in November, so it made sense that he
There's
probably
also the part about
he probably wasn't
Sorry.
allowed to do anything like tweet out the hashtag or something.
and there's also the
because
part where we were saying he has yet to rise, wasn't it? So it's
Yeah,
like
it made sense in the
out
back.
of the whole league, he's the one who has yet to rise, and so I think it's just kind of poetic that he was the one who ended up obviously announcing it.
To those of us who
Even
don't have
better
our
that it
heads
worked out.
pressed.
Even better that it worked out for Man of Steel screening, because that just like made it even better to me.
Sure.
I think somebody early last November, when they were going after Cavill, somebody did say, somebody tweeted, I don't know, can't remember who it was, that maybe he will be the one, when we hear from him, it's real, or something like that.
I feel like we
remember.
said it, but I don't think you're referring to a tweet that we put out. Like, I know that we definitely tweeted it a few times, but
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
if it was us.
I read it somewhere. It could have been a retweet or something, but I remember reading that a couple of different ways, and thinking that okay, everybody's being hard on him because for the wrong reasons. Then they kind of need to back off. But yeah, looking back, so are you guys now going to go back and look at all those Excalibur and lore little clues and try to see how they pointed to
Possibly.
Oh, definitely.
We're in
Totally.
quarantine. There's nothing else to
like
do.
I think there's somebody making an essay on this topic as we speak, because it's like this fandom enjoys this stuff. I think that's why. I mean that's probably not a good way to put it, but I think that a lot of people in this fandom, and the reason that Zack's work speaks to us, is because of all these clues. And actually, like, we've spoken to him, had the privilege to, which we're forever grateful for. And he did say, he does put these Easter eggs and these little clues in these movies for people to take them apart years later on, because that's how much he cares about them. That's how much he cares about what he does. He wants to make it till the last detail. He wants to put this stuff in. He wants people to have fun looking for these things as well. And I think that's what kind of brings the fandom to him, because I mean, as far as I remember, Man of Steel, we're still finding things. I mean, there's so much stuff that he revealed in that commentary that we were like, oh, I didn't know this. The same thing with BVS. And then there were other things like Snyder Shared Reference, which was like a whole competition based on All the Gods t-shirt, which people were picking apart. I believe everybody here knows, what the All the Gods shirt has is that 5-arc plan. So people are still picking that apart. Still, there's still questions about what certain things mean, and could they have double meaning, and so on and so on. So it's always been, and it's always going to be, like, looking for these little clues, and even looking back and you see certain things. And I mean, we've got a year to wait. Might as well, look for these little clues. I think that's pretty cool.
Slightly off topic, but just like that Man of Steel, the Man of Steel screening, right away he blew my mind, because he said that, did he say Doomsday broke the moon or something?
Yes.
Yeah, the real Doomsday,
Yeah, like when he said that, my mind was blown, because I honestly the whole time thought that was a Star Wars reference, because he's such a huge Star Wars fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, and then like later that year, he was dressed as Empire Strikes Back Luke Skywalker for Halloween. So I just really thought that was a Star Wars reference. That was Alderaan or something. But then he said that, and I sat there, and then I went and looked up pictures. I was like, oh my god, where have I been?
And you know what? It's like when he mentioned that reflection of Mars and stuff, and I was like, and he's like, well, that's the Watchmen reference for you. And I was like, oh my god, how did I not see this before? Because I love Watchmen and I adore it.
I really wish he got that Easter egg, that he had gone a little further with the Watchmen reference and put a flash of blue on there, like he said in the commentary.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I love Watchmen, and I totally missed all the Watchmen stuff. So when he was talking about it, as we were going through the Man of Steel, I'm like, how did I was the same way. How did I miss this stuff? It just blew me away that he was able to wrap these two movies together so well.
Yeah, he enjoys, I think, putting Easter eggs from his other movies into you know his other movies, like cross-referencing the movies with Easter eggs. I know that he made this back in October when Meg had the charity screening of Man of Steel in Ireland. He recorded a short video, and he recorded it on the set of Army of the Dead because of the time they were shooting. And I remember Meg picked up actually a Superman reference in the logo of the casino that they were like the set casino that they were shooting in, because it was like right behind him, and there was just a Superman logo reference right in the logo. So he just does these little Easter eggs in all his movies towards his other movies, which I think is really cool.
And he knows we'll find them.
Find them and pick them up. It's just a little game that you can, you know.
It's an
Did you
Easter
say
egg.
something to him about that, Meg? About the reference to Superman? Did you say something about was it Meg? Or who did the screening? Did you say something about the reference?
No, it was Mick.
Oh, Mick.
The,
sorry.
Yeah, the guy from TPZ who lives out in Ireland. Meg's in
okay.
Michigan.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're just a few minutes from me. We should meet up. I'm in
Yes.
Indiana, actually.
I would love that.
Yeah, now you said it. She's gonna be on your doorstep next morning.
Yep, see you tomorrow.
We'll go shopping. Well, no, we won't go shopping, but you know, and everything. But the lake's big. We'll go and talk 6 feet apart from each other, and you know, I'm sure we'll find something you should do. But yeah, I really appreciate the fans, because I'm one of the picking. I from my literary background, that's what we do in literary criticism. You pick something like a book or a piece of writing apart, beat it until it's dead, is what my husband says. But I think that's why I sort of connect with this fandom so much, because you guys love picking these little pieces up, and every time I talk to you, it's something new or something different I discover about a movie I've seen 15 million times, and I have to go back and see it again. And I love that, though, about Zack film. So
yeah, I think that's what binds us together. We all enjoy doing that. We all enjoy these little things. We all enjoy that we can watch the movie for 100th time, and there's still going to be something new that we haven't seen before, or something that somebody pointed out that we haven't seen before. I think that's what makes it. That's what makes these movies also timeless. People talk about them still. You know, people talk about them years on. I mean, we've celebrated 4 years of BVS. We're going to be celebrating 7 years of Man of Steel. Which other comic book movie has a celebration like this? Like, I can't, you know, it's just like in my mind, there is no other movie that gets such a, like, not even Endgame, which for Marvel fans was a big milestone. You'd think, okay, they had a 1 year anniversary, they'll be talking. No, nobody was talking.
Well, I mean, it was just a very little. I mean, you're right. There was not much about Endgame. I mean, how many Man of Steel watch parties have you guys had, or Batman versus Superman, or whatever? You know, how many watch parties have you had over the films that are out there just now, right now, from this trilogy? One thing is obviously what we had now with Zack, but like Meg with Dave together, they've been doing streams since last fall. Right, and I've not heard of one in-game anything.
I think the only other fandoms I know of that end up trending on the anniversary of something is Star Wars and Harry Potter. Like every year on September 1st and on May, and at the end of May, you end up having it trends because Battle of Hogwarts and then going to Hogwarts. Like every year it trends. And Star Wars, every so often when they hit an anniversary, it trends. But like I don't think any outside of those two like pop culture icons, I don't think of any others that actually like trend every time there's an anniversary. And we've managed to do that pretty effortlessly.
And you don't even need anniversary. You can just have a little mention. I mean, how many times did it happen that there was just like random out of the blue article about Batman v Superman or something, and out of nowhere you open Twitter and there is like BVS is trending, and you're just like, and like even for us, people who actually follow this stuff, and
or the
obviously because we were campaigning for years, we follow it to the bit, and it's like sometimes it would just happen to me. I open Twitter and I'm like, so what did happen now?
Or when when Matt Reeves did that little clip showing Bat Pattinson. And all of a sudden, BVS was trending, Batfleck was trending. We trended more than Matt Reeves's Batman did. Oh my god!
It's like when you have the part where what's it called? Yeah, when if you remember, Warner Brothers put up that poll between Batmans, like which Batman's the best, and they didn't put Ben Affleck in there. And it ended up, first of all, that thread blew up. Like, there was more comments than there was votes because everybody was like, Batfleck. And then it started trending. So it's like, it's just like the legacy of these films, I think, is so strong. And I genuinely believe Justice League will be the same, if not even more, given the story behind it and all that stuff. I mean, it's not going to be just a movie anymore. It's always going to have the story attached to it, that like, how did we get where we were from where we began? And so I think it's going to be something that like sticks around for a long while, whether or not, like whether it's going to stay just that, or whether maybe people will want to see more and it's going to get a sequel. I think that no matter what happens, that movie is going to be something that people will talk about years from now still.
You're right. I think you're right.
I think that's it for this episode. Any other questions, Joe?
No, I had actually two sets of questions, and one of them that I kind of wasn't sure if I was going to be able to ask, and found out pretty quickly that I wasn't. So, so that's why we took the turn. But it was a happy turn because this is all going to be for an article that I'm reading. That's not been picked up by anybody yet. It may just end up on my webpage, theblackcape.com. But it's going to be about what's really going on behind this fandom. And, and that label. I think we really need to talk about it, discuss it. Thank you for discussing it here. I'm going to translate that to the page.
We can't wait to read it.
I can't wait.
Can you give us a little rundown as to, I mean, obviously, just once again, where can people find you? Where can they look for the article? You said the website, but can you give us also your handles, say Vero and Twitter and stuff? So just where can people look for you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter under my name, Jonita, Jonitl Davis. And just look that up, and you'll find me. Or my website, theblackcape.com. On Vero, my handle is a little bit different. It's actually the combination of the first couple letters of my first, middle, and last name, so it's Joe Luda. So anyway, but on Twitter you'll be able to find your way to my Vero account. So just look for me, Jonita L Davis on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, and I will take you to my Vero account. So,
and
And we will also link Jonita down below in the description along with the rest of us, like we always do. So if you guys struggling, that's where you find her. Okay then.
Thank you so much for coming back to talk with us.
Yes, and thank
thank you so
indulging
much.
me and my questions.
Of course, we're excited to see what you make of it, of our rambling.
This is some great stuff. Great stuff.
All right, so I think this is Snyder's Amazons and Jonita Davis signing off.